Here's another video for the Ottawa Valley Vibes, the channel where I try to make videos as short as I possibly can because I don't like wasting your time just like I don't like wasting mine. Heck, in most of these videos, I don't even bother asking you to like or subscribe. I figured you will or you won't. Either way, I just like saving time. Hopefully you stick around now. But today's episode is about composting. Now, I want to go through quickly the do's and don'ts, what you really need to know about compost, break a few myths, and make this as quickly as I can. So let's get into it. So, first of all, location. That's probably your biggest thing to keep in mind when you're composting. Location, location, location. Now, when I first got my first compost, and this is one of them, I actually got two of them. Somebody had offered to me. But as you can tell, this one's breaking down pretty good. My last one's broken down quite nicely, but that's half to this one. And of course, I was so excited to get composting. First thing I did is throw it out in the backyard. My issue is I put it right beside this shed, which unfortunately blocked a lot of the light. So, unfortunately, one of the biggest things you need to keep in mind when it comes to composting is that it's going to require a lot of sun and a lot of moisture. So try to get it in a sunny spot in the backyard or wherever you want. Just make sure it gets a lot of sunlight, and that's your biggest thing. As for how to make a composter or what you need for a compost pile, well, technically, you don't really need anything. You can literally just make a pile if you want, or if you want, you can get one of these types of composters. You can make it out of skids. I've seen a lot of that on YouTube and online. You can also, you get one of those tumblers that just spin to mix it around for you. They're all valid reasons, but you could do it all for free with just a pile or, something you made out of skids. Now, what to add? Well, the first thing you'll want to keep in mind is that a lot of people will always tell you that you'll want your greens and browns, your carbon rich stuff, which is your browns, and your nitrogen rich stuff, which is your greens. So the nitrogen rich greens. Actually, let's start off with things you don't want to add to the compost. You definitely do not want to add anything that might have been treated, whether that's vegetables you think might have been treated with herbicides or certain types of things you wouldn't want in your garden. Or maybe that's wood you're adding in that might have been treated with paints or whatnot, that sort of thing. You do not want to add anything like meats, cheeses, milk, any of that sort of thing. Although, in a couple of seconds in this video, I'm going to contradict the meat thing. Don't add meats to your compost, but you'll understand this in a minute. Now, things you do want to add to your compost would be things like, obviously, vegetable scraps, eggshells, coffee grounds. You know, this could all be your greens, which will add to nitrogen and a lot of other good things. I'm going to get into certain gardening nutrients in other videos, so stick around for that. But for the basic rundown, those would be your greens. Now your browns could be, like leaves you've got from the fall or in the spring cleanup. Could be, I've heard of people adding cardboard. I personally don't, but it's a valid thing to do. You can add things like, brown paper or white paper that doesn't have anything you wouldn't want in your garden. And here's where I'm going to contradict the meat thing. I would not suggest adding meat to your garden or to your compost. It attracts way too much critters you don't want. It causes, you don't really need it in there. It takes way too long to break down. But the contradiction I will add to this is fish. Now, if you go fishing, you can, what I often do, and I'll make a video of this at some point too, I'll gut the fish and scale the fish into a bucket of water so I can dump that into my compost. whatever pieces of the fish I don't eat, like the bones and yada yada yada, I'll throw into the compost. And if I ever have any fish in the freezer that a little past what I would prefer to eat it, I'll add that to the compost. It'll add a lot of different types of chipmunk just ran by. It'll add a lot of different fish oils and fish nutrients and bone meal type stuff, blood meal, all the kind of nutrients that would give your garden will be added to your compost. Now, if you're going to do this, I would heavily suggest A, wait till you've already got a bit of compost going in your composter. Because B, I would suggest you dig it into your composter to give it some time to rot without anything coming by to get it. Other than that, that's basically all you really need to know about compost. I mean, now a lot of people will say you'll want a 50-50 ratio of browns to greens, and that's not a terrible idea, especially when you're beginning off. But I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, just add whatever you can to it. And if you're a little off, even if you're like 75% greens from the kitchen and whatever, and you only put in your leaves once a year or whatever, it's still going to compost just fine. But it just might, as long as you have it in the heat and you stir it every so often. And I'd suggest anywhere from every week to every 3 or 4 weeks. Just try to keep stirring it, keep adding to it, and you should be fine. I've had potatoes growing out of this very composter. I've had tomatoes growing out of it. I've had a lot of other things growing out of my composter. Works just fine. As you can tell, I put my raspberries beside it so any nutrients could leach out of it. And it's just, this is only about 2 years old. It's been going crazy right out of my composter. You know what I mean? So that's a basic rundown of what you need to know for composting. And if you like these types of videos and you happen to live in the Ottawa Valley area, might I suggest you join the Ottawa Valley Gardens and Games Bartering Group on Facebook, a group where you can trade knowledge, seeds, plants. If you're into baking, if you're into fishing, pickling, preserving, any of that sort of stuff, you can trade furs or whatever the heck you might have extras of for other things to be more resourceful and to save a little bit of money. So check that out if you're in the Ottawa Valley area, and if you're not, well, maybe you can start your own group of similar thoughts. And if you do, you should put it down in the comments below, and maybe we can collaborate and make a main group for that sort of thing. But anyways, I hope you're all having a good day. This video turned out a lot longer than I intended to, but I'll end her here. Have a good day, guys. Take care. Oh yeah, and one more thing I meant to add for things you can add to your compost. So if you ever have like a fire in the backyard fire pit or in your wood stove at home, or if you have a fireplace or any of that sort of thing, you can add the ashes from your composter from the fire to the composter. You can also add like the bigger chunks of, I guess you'd call it charcoal, the pieces of wood that didn't burn down completely. But if you're going to do that, I would suggest you try to break it down a bit before you do so. I've also added ashes from the ashtray into my composter, but if you're going to do this, I just suggest you try to make sure you pick out any of the tobacco or as much of it as you can, because obviously that's not going to help your compost all too much. Anywho, I hope you're all having a good day. Take care.